What's up, guys? It's Setki, your pal behind the screen. And I know it's been a while since I made a video, but hey, I'm back now and I'm so happy and excited to make videos for you guys again. So without further ado, let's hop into the first story. The first story comes from the user No Cloud. It's titled "The DM Who Didn't Actually Want to DM." This story happened sometime last year during an online game of 5e on Roll20. It was a pretty basic campaign premise. Party meet and are hired together to protect a caravan headed to a neighboring town. The classic. The DM was a very nice guy, very chatty, and sort of dominates any conversation he's a part of, but not to the point of interrupting others. The first session of games go well enough. The DM had mentioned a few players leaving, which didn't ping me as a red flag until later, as I didn't see any problem with him or the group. The problem started occurring around session 3. We all hop into Discord and pre-game banter is lasting a lot longer this time, mostly the DM, and he makes the remark, we don't actually have to play D&D, I'm fine with whatever, like Monopoly or something. He asks what the 5 other players, including myself, think, and we all unanimously decide upon continuing the game that we all sign up for. He runs the sessions, though he seems a bit muted during it, and the session doesn't last as long this time. Cue the post-game chat where I have to leave a bit early. These could last hours with this DM. Like I said, nice guy and very charismatic, but very talkative and keen to talk about himself. A lot. This scenario repeats again the next week with the DM asking us if we want to play something else, or even just chat with one another for a couple of hours, and the players again unanimously decide that we want to play the 5e with a shorter session again, and myself having to leave the post-game chat very early. The DM then messaged me on Discord the next day, privately asking me why I left the post-game chats early the past couple of weeks, and why I don't want to play something other than 5e with him. I explained to him that I liked talking with him, but I had applied to play a D&D game, not just talking with other people online for hours. He then gets quite upset and tells me that he thought we were friends, to which I tell him that I've only known him for a month at that point, and that while we were friendly and I liked his company, again, I was there to play D&D as was originally advertised. Suddenly the 2 other players who dropped were starting to make sense. Then for the next 2 weeks, none of us heard a thing from the DM. The server was still up and we all reached out to him multiple times, but he never replied. So with him most likely having ghosted us all, I wish the other players all the best and left the server. Having had time to think about it, I think this guy was either eager to make friends online or just wanted a social outlet first and foremost, and was using the promise of a D&D game to lure people in online to be in his social circle. Honestly, after reading that story, I kind of feel bad for the DM. As someone who also puts out games on Roll20, I write directly into my advertisement. I really hope that, we could all become friends over the course of the game. But, some people are just there just to play D&D, and if, you all stay together and be friends, that's a plus. And sometimes when the game is over, everyone goes their separate ways, and that's just that. I feel bad for OP and the rest of the party as well, because everyone just really didn't get what they wanted. They wanted a regular D&D game, just normal standard procedure, and the DM wanted online friends basically, and it was just they weren't synced up. So glad that it ended as well as it could have, but hopefully the DM finds him some friends and OP finds himself a regular D&D game. So, with that being said, let's move on to the second story. This second story comes from user Squawkatalk. This story is actually an update to a story that I covered in my last video. So if you haven't seen that, you should go watch that and come back to see how that crazy story wraps up. Alright, here we go. So one thing I failed to mention during my last story is we all live in the same area roundabout, so we're doing Discord calls because of COVID. Mary did not feel comfortable with us knowing where she lived quite yet, since she lives with her younger siblings and parents. We met at Alice's place usually, or my place. This is important. To pick up where I left off, Mary had started getting really testy during Discord calls, and giving us whiplash. I asked the Warlock if they noticed the same thing, and they did. I wasn't completely nuts. I confided in them that I felt a little upset that Mary was getting so much attention, and Alice was neglecting the rest of us a bit. They agreed, and we ended the conversation with some inane chatter about unrelated things. The very next day was a session, and everything seemed mostly fine. Mary was in a good mood, Alice wasn't being overly flirty with her, and we're continuing our mission. We begin, and the first thing out of Alice's mouth is, "Since someone seems to think that I talk to Mary too much, how about we talk to the paladin?" So they snitched. Things got a little bit more tense after that. My characters were coming up empty on rolls from 18s to nat 20s, where as usual, Mary was gleaning a ton of information at 11s and 12s. After posting this story and speaking to my partner, I decided that I should lead the campaign. Now, contrary to what I said before, my character was actually pretty intertwined with the story, and I wanted a clean break for everyone else. So I made a plan to speak with Alice about things, to tell her why I was leaving, and to work things out without killing my character, since killing my character would essentially kill the mission with the way she made player deaths work. Before I could talk to Alice, I got a long, and I mean a very long, text message from Mary, essentially saying that she was tired of the way Alice had been not only treating her, but her friends, and she was cutting her out of her life. She wanted to stay friends with the rest of the D&D group, and she was leaving the campaign because Alice had begun making her incredibly uncomfortable, and nothing she did was shaking her off her trail. But noting that Alice was focusing on her in a major way, and had been trying to point out to Alice that what she doing wasn't fair. When that didn't work, she started being bratty during games to show Alice that she wasn't all that great. I was like, alright. I told her I did want to stay friends, and found out some extra shit that Alice was doing. Long story short, she was being racist, transphobic, she was spamming Mary with messages constantly while she was sleeping, and kept telling Mary that she was going to find her house and come kidnap her younger siblings so that she'd have to see her. She was going to smooze her parents into inviting her over to dinner. A bunch of weird shit. Anytime Mary wanted to hang out with someone else, Alice would get jealous and make Mary feel bad for leading her on and being tense and not giving her a chance. Mary never said anything about this because she didn't want to rock the boat and break up the D&D group. That was a running theme with the group. Actually, turns out, none of us actually liked Alice. We were just under the impression that each of us was a package deal, and if we cut Alice out of our lives, then the rest of the group would get cut out. So all of us stayed quiet and silently put up with everything she was doing. Despite everything, we were mostly enjoying the game. But for Mary, the breaking point had arrived. So happily, we cut Alice out of our lives. Things were fine, at least for the first few days. First, we started getting phone calls. The warlock was the only one to answer, and she was given this sob story about how Alex was just in love. She loved deeply, passionately. Alice made a promise that no matter what happened, she wouldn't block her number and would stay friends with her. The warlock promised, hung up, then blocked her number. I also received a call, but didn't answer. After being through the weird shit enough, I don't need any more manipulative people in my life. The paladin and barbarian, who remember was no longer in the campaign, also got phone calls, but they didn't answer either and blocked her number. I don't know what possessed her to do this, but she drove to my house and banged on my door. I live in an apartment complex, so she got an angry neighbor cussing her out while she yelled at my door, finally leaving when I told her off. I sent out a message to our group chat saying that she came to my house, and Mary said that she's going to go stay with someone else for a week. No one else got a visit knowingly from Alice. I started my own campaign, and so far the rest of the group seems to be having fun. It's been a couple of weeks and no one has heard from Alice. I sincerely hope we never do. I don't know if I can trust anyone to DM for me again. I've got another game I'm in, and the DM is really good, but I feel like he's the exception rather than the rule. The complete opposite of the last DM. I don't feel bad for them at all. They got what was coming to them. They have been obsessive and manipulative from the very start. You know, I'm so glad for OP, especially Mary, to get out of this relationship, quote unquote, with this person, and hopefully the DM in time can reflect on this and realize how weird they were being and they grow from this experience. And to everyone else, I hope they're having really good times in their new campaign with not simp DM. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I know it's been so long since I've posted, and I'm so happy to be back to making videos for you guys. And you know, if you ever want to watch more of me, come back and see me, because I'm your pal behind the screen. Bye guys.